Part 21. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 202. Before the two of them understood what Len Ning meant, Xiaoman suddenly appeared in Len Ning's hands. Then there was a boom sound, and several hard vines hit the instrument. The woman was frightened by the sound and subconsciously turned to cover her eyes with her hands. When I turned around and looked at the instrument, I realized that the number on the instrument was very close to the maximum endurance value of the instrument. How is this possible? What is this little girl holding? Li Qiang also looked at Len Ning in disbelief. The lady is so strong, stronger than anyone he has ever seen. It's called Xiaoman, and he is my wood spiritual pet, Len Ning explained lightly. Then he turned around and walked towards the desk where the woman worked. As he walked, he said, the wood element originally belongs to the auxiliary element. But the mutation attribute of the wood type belongs to the combat type. Those with awakened powers of the wood type mutation type can spawn some ferocious and intelligent plants as their wood type spiritual pets. Since wood type spiritual pets are personally spawned by superpowers, after they gain life and intelligence, they will recognize superpowers as their main ones. They will follow them all their lives and never leave them. This is a bit like the following behavior of some animals. For example, when a mother duck hatches a chick, the first thing the chick sees after it is born is the mother duck, and it thinks that the mother duck is its mother. Even such behavior occurs occasionally in animals and humans. Xiaoman was very affectionate to her, almost treating her like a mother. Of course, she also likes Xiaoman very much and is willing to pamper him like a child. The woman listened to all this blankly, feeling like she was listening to a fantasy story. Can plants also produce intelligence? Will you still recognize your master? What are you doing standing there? Don't you write it down? Len Ning glanced at the woman, with a hint of impatience on his brows. Not only is the work attitude poor, but the work motivation is also poor. Oh. Yes, the woman said quickly. Then he ran to the table, sat down, and quickly picked up a pen to take notes. Who would have thought that just as he was about to start writing, he was suddenly stopped by Xiaoman's vines. Looking up at Len Ning, the woman's eyes flashed with fear and doubt. Only there is no anger. Change the notebook. After all, you will need this notebook to eat later, Len Ning said calmly. The woman's heart trembled. The expression on his face was like crying. Although this little girl is thin and small, the power her wood-type spiritual pet exerted just now was almost close to the maximum power value of the instrument. If she really has trouble with her, who can stop her? Were her eyes blurred by shit? Why did you offend her before? The woman looked at Len Ning pleadingly, begging her to let her go. It's a pity that there is no trace of mercy on Len Ning's face. In desperation, the woman quickly looked at Li Qiang for help. This man came with this little girl. If he was willing to beg for mercy on his behalf, maybe she could let him go. Unfortunately, Li Qiang didn't have any expression, so Quan pretended that he didn't see it. The woman panicked. Then he quickly forced himself to calm down. Little girl dash. Call my name, Len Ning said calmly. The woman quickly lowered her head to look at the form that Len Ning had filled out before. Len Ning's name was on it. Len, Miss Len. I didn't mean it before. I apologize to you, the woman hurriedly said to Len Ning. Len Ning, this name sounds so familiar. Len Ning curled his lips and didn't take it seriously. This woman is interesting. Her apology is just a verbal one? Li Qiang's brows also wrinkled. This woman doesn't even need to bow when she apologizes. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 203. Len Ning looked at the woman coldly and did not reply. The woman's expression became flustered again. I didn't mean it. Who could have thought that your power is really, the third level? Seeing that he was showing weakness, Len Ning was still not ready to let him go, so the woman simply raised her voice. Len Ning looked cold. "Don't push yourself too far. I've already apologized to you," the woman said, and took 2 steps back, as if she was afraid that Len Ning would hit her with a small barbarian. Then he quickly picked up the booklet on the table and pointed it at Len Ning in a defensive posture. "Don't think that I will be afraid of you because you are a strong wood mutant type. My uncle is a popular person around Hall Master Lan. If you dare to attack me, he will definitely let you get out of the Thunder Base." Wang, seeing the dangerous look in Len Ning's eyes, the woman boldly threatened. Len Ning frowned. Miss Liqiang hurriedly stepped forward. Glancing at Liqiang, "Stand aside," Len Ning said solemnly. Liqiang glanced at the woman, gave her a wish for goodness expression, and stood aside again. "I really don't know who actually agreed to arrange for such a stupid woman to work here. If she offends the young lady now, not only will she be in trouble, but the people behind her will also be affected. It would be fine if it involves her so-called uncle, but if this matter involves Hall Master Lan. Damn it, this woman really needs to be dealt with. Oh. It turns out that your uncle is so powerful that he can get me out of the Thunder Base." Len Ning smiled instead of being angry. "You should tell me what your uncle's name is. Maybe I know him." The woman's body trembled. No. How could she know her uncle with such a high status? "My uncle is Zhao Qian, the housekeeper of Hall Master Lan." The woman thought Len Ning was trying to scare her and said immediately. "She can work here, and her colleagues are so flattering to her, all because of her uncle." She didn't believe it and moved her uncle out, but this little girl dared to fight against her. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth. "It turns out to be the old man with squinty eyes," then he said with a smile. The old man was indeed Blue Snake's butler, and he had some tricks up his sleeve. It's just that there is a bit of chaos in the matter of men and women. In his previous life, it seems that in the 3rd year of the apocalypse, he was thrown out of the Thunder Base by Blue Snake and fed to the zombies because of something bad done by a woman. This matter was still discussed a lot at that time, and it all reached her ears. She had seen that old man several times in her previous life, and the look in his eyes made her feel very uncomfortable. Looking back now, I'm afraid he didn't have any good intentions for me at that time. It's just that because of his identity, he couldn't do anything to her. My uncle is less than 50 years old, how dare you call him an old man?" The woman was furious. After the words came out of her mouth, she realized something was wrong. How did she know that her uncle was a squinty-eyed person? Wrong. She said before that she might know someone close to Hall Master Lan. Len Ning. The woman's eyes seemed to be stabbed, and she suddenly remembered, isn't the sister of Thunder Base Master Lei Xiao called Len Ning? Her uncle had mentioned it to her before, saying that the little princess of the Lei family was very cute and asked him to. You're cold. The woman found it difficult to breathe. Len Ning glanced at the woman and said nothing. You are so impudent. How dare you be rude to the lady? Liqiang finally couldn't bear it anymore and stepped forward. The woman was startled, then her feet gave way and she fell to the ground. Yes, she is really the little princess of the Lei family. It's over, she's done now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Now. Chapter 204. Len Ning glanced at Liqiang. Liqiang quickly retreated. Miss, please spare your life, miss. The woman suddenly moved and rushed towards Len Ning. He originally wanted to hug Len Ning's thigh, but because Xiaoman blocked him, he could only kneel half a meter in front of Len Ning. This book is what you said you wanted to eat just now. Len Ning had no expression on his face, he just picked up the book that the woman had just thrown away from the ground and said. The woman's eyes widened as she looked at the notebook in Len Ning's hand and shook her head. I was wrong. I didn't mean it. Miss, please let me go. Please, miss, the woman said and kowtowed to Len Ning. Because I was afraid of pain, I stopped exerting much force after 2 heavy knocks. Eat it, Len Ning said calmly, stepped forward and handed the notebook to the woman. Acting indifferent to a woman's performance. The woman kept shaking her head. Then he got up and prepared to run. It's a pity, how could she, an ordinary person, run away? Xiaoman just stretched out the vines, hooked the woman's waist, and dragged her back. Then, Len Ning knelt down and brought the notebook to the woman's mouth. Are you going to eat it yourself, or do you want me to feed you? He asked dangerously. Don't say she is Lei Ting's sister, her identity lies there. Even if she was just a commoner, she would not let this woman bully her. After experiencing her previous life, she had already been reborn. If others do not offend me, I will not offend others. If someone offends me, he will be punished. The woman kept shaking her head. The paper inside this book is fine, but the cover is so thick that she might lose half her life if she eats it. Liqiang Len Ning's face turned cold. Here, Miss Liqiang hurried forward. He watched most of what happened. This woman clearly asked for it. Help me feed her, Len Ning said in a deep voice. Liqiang was stunned. Yes, he replied immediately. Then he took the book from Len Ning, and by the way, caught the woman after Xiaoman let go of her. Liqiang looked very strong when he pushed the woman onto the desk. Would you like to eat? He then asked the woman with a sullen look on his face. When have women ever been treated like this? Before the end of the world, she was doted on by her family, and after the end of the world, she relied on her uncle's relationship to dominate the work. Although the men were not always submissive to her, they were basically polite and some were even considerate. This man was treating her so cruelly now. Seeing that the woman just shed tears and still kept her mouth closed and refused to eat, Liqiang became angry. You forced me to do this. After saying this, Liqiang rolled up the notebook directly. Then he made a show of stuffing it into the woman's mouth. I eat. When the woman saw this, her eyes filled with fear, and she finally accepted her fate. Liqiang breathed a sigh of relief. Wouldn't it be okay if I said this earlier? He let go of the woman. The woman suddenly went limp and slipped, leaning on the legs of the desk. There was no sharpness in his eyes, only deep fear remained. Liqiang glanced at the woman unhappily and threw the notebook into her arms. Eat quickly. Don't waste Mrs. time, he urged impatiently. With a sad face, the woman opened the book, took out a small piece and started to put it in her mouth. But as soon as I put it in my mouth, I couldn't help but retching. Len Ning frowned. Swallow it back, Liqiang said immediately. Then he lifted his feet and gave them to the woman directly. The woman felt pain and quickly swallowed it, not daring to spit it out again. Eat quickly, Liqiang continued to say fiercely. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 205. What bothers him the most is this kind of woman who pretends to be powerful, arrogant, and has no wink. What's more annoying is the kind of people who refuse to admit their mistakes after being slapped in the face, or who don't admit their mistakes sincerely and only know how to escape. This kind of woman is not destined to be a princess, but she is full of princess diseases. She feels that everyone in the world deserves to be treated like them. You deserve to be taken care of by the lady now. The woman choked and had to eat paper faster. At this time, more and more people were waiting outside the door. Seeing that Len Ning and Liqiang had not gone out, they all became restless. Boss, haven't you done it yet? It was Zhou Tao's voice. When the woman heard someone shouting outside, a glimmer of hope immediately emerged in her eyes, and her eating speed slowed down again. Len Ning frowned. Eat you. Hurry up, Li Qiang immediately kicked him over. Ah, the woman screamed, wanting to attract outside attention. The young lady definitely wants to save face. As long as someone outside comes in and sees her, maybe they won't embarrass her anymore because of her face. Len Ning's eyes turned cold. How could this woman's little thoughts be hidden from her? Boss, Zhou Tao's voice outside was louder than before. Wait, Len Ning said solemnly. This sentence reassured everyone in the Manman team who were waiting anxiously outside. You go find someone to continue working for the people behind you, while I watch her finish the book. Len Ning looked at Li Qiang. The woman's eyes suddenly widened. She doesn't care at all about being seen bullying others. Then the woman began to panic. Then he took the initiative to eat paper faster. Because she suddenly thought that if someone saw her being punished by the lady, no one in the workplace would think highly of her in the future. Who dares to get close to a young lady who has offended her? Li Qiang was a little surprised. What kind of trick is this? He couldn't understand this woman's operation at all, but she was actually willing to eat it. Len Ning glanced at Li Qiang. He said with his eyes, "Why don't you go quickly?" Yes, Li Qiang hurriedly clasped his fists at Len Ning, then turned and left. Len Ning looked at the woman who was eating paper in a hurry, and the corners of her mouth curled up. Yes, I finally became smart for once. Here, Li Qiang was grabbed by Zhou Tao and Yuan Xing as soon as he went out. They all asked what their boss was doing inside. Li Qiang had something to do, so he just said it was nothing, pushed the two of them away and hurried away. This made the rest of the Manman team very curious. However, their boss didn't let them in, so they couldn't see it even if they were curious. Finally, another 10 minutes passed, and the woman had finished the entire book in a panic, including the hard and thick cover. The woman felt sick when she thought that what she had eaten was paper and there were 2 pieces of cardboard. But she could only endure it, not daring to vomit in front of Len Ning. Knock, knock, knock. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. The woman immediately looked towards the door, with some hope in her eyes. Finally someone came. Miss, the president of the mercenary union wants to see you at this time. Li Qiang's voice came from outside the door. Outside the house, the superhumans queuing up heard this and immediately looked towards the door. The president of the mercenary union? Miss. Oh my god, could the people inside be? Didn't Hall Master Lan say that Mr. Lei and his family haven't returned yet? Could it be that the princess of their Thunder base has returned? And you're in the office right now? Big news. Today they must see what the young lady looks like so that they can brag to the people around them when they get back. The woman in the room became flustered again when she heard that the person coming was the president of the mercenary union. The president is here, what should we do? If the president knew that she was so disrespectful to the young lady, would he let her go? If the president speaks out, I'm afraid my uncle won't be able to save her. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 206. Come in, Len Ning said solemnly. The door opened quickly. Li Qiang walked in with a middle-aged man. Han San has met Miss. The man walked not far away from Len Ning, clasped his fists and bowed to Len Ning. From beginning to end, I didn't dare to look at Len Ning. Yeah, Len Ning responded. I didn't know that Miss Han San was not welcome when she came to the union. The president of the mercenary union said respectfully. Len Ning waved his hand and finally looked away from the woman. I didn't want to disturb you. It's just that you should take good care of the people here, Len Ning said and looked at Han San. Han San is a member of the Lei family and an old man of the Lei family. When I was young, I heard that I followed my eldest brother's father. Later, after my eldest brother inherited the Lei family, he followed my eldest brother again. Good ability, commendable loyalty. These 8 words were the evaluation of Han San by his eldest brother in his previous life. Han San immediately looked at the woman. He had already inquired with Li Qiang on the way here. This black sheep could get him into big trouble. The woman's eyes narrowed and she didn't dare to look at Han-san at all. It's Han-san who neglected his discipline. Please rest assured, miss, there won't be another time, Han-san said solemnly. Len Ning glanced at the woman again. She said she is the niece of Zhao Qian, the housekeeper of Brother Ian's house. Do you know this? Then she asked Han-san. I know. She came here because Zhao Qian was looking for me. Han-san wiped the sweat from his forehead. Originally, he just wanted to sell Zhao Qian's favor. After all, Zhao Qian was working under Hall Master Lan, so it was hard for him to give him face. Now it seems that he was careless in this matter. Regarding the issue of this woman's style, the people below have actually already had their opinions. But he didn't deal with it because of Zhao Qian. Maybe it was for this reason that this woman became more and more bold, and this time she actually offended the young lady. Len Ning looked at Han-san. Don't worry, miss, you won't see her in the mercenary union again, Han-san continued. The woman's face suddenly turned pale. She wanted to beg Han-san, but she didn't dare to speak anymore. Now that she has made the president admit his mistake in front of the young lady, the president may be very angry with her. She had to endure it and tell her uncle when she went back, asking him to help her plead with the president. Len Ning looked at Han-san. What do you say to Zhao Qian? I promised Zhao Qian to help before because he is the head of Lan Hall. Han-san is a servant of the Lei family, and so is Hall Master Lan. After the lady leaves, Han-san will tell this matter to Hall Master Lan in person. Han-san said respectfully. The woman immediately collapsed on the ground. What does the president mean by this? He was going to tell Hall Master Lan about her? Doesn't it mean that if she is finished, her uncle will be finished too? My uncle has such a cruel character, if he knew that she was implicated, he would definitely beat her to death. President, this is my fault alone. Don't do this. You can punish me as you like, no matter what. Please don't go to Hall Master Lan. The more she thought about it, the more frightened the woman became. He quickly crawled over and pulled Han-san's leg. After being tortured by Len Ning just now, she already knew that begging Len Ning was useless. Besides, she was now scared of Len Ning and didn't dare to get close to Len Ning anymore. She could only beg Han-san, hoping that he would let her and her uncle go. Han-san frowned. I wanted to kick the woman away, but because of Len Ning's presence, I didn't dare to move. You can handle this matter as long as it doesn't delay the normal work here. There are still so many people waiting outside, Len Ning said. When Len Ning said this, hope suddenly filled the woman's eyes. Then he hugged Han-san's legs harder. Thank you for sending me the flowers. Abraham baby call. It's so expensive. Update completed. You can have a good sleep now. Good night, fairy babies. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 207. As long as she doesn't care and the president lets her go, nothing will happen to her and her uncle. Don't worry, miss, I have arranged for someone to work next door. I won't keep the superpowers waiting, Han-san Kong said respectfully to Len Ning. This woman is as stupid as a pig. Beg him. Miss, does he still have room to make the decision here? Also, if she didn't pester him so much, he could be a little more relaxed with her. Now that she is so hard on herself, there is no need for him to talk to her anymore. Zhao Qian has been sophisticated for more than 10 years, but it is a pity that he was implicated by such an unworthy person. Yeah, Len Ning nodded. Indeed, the previous noise was no longer heard outside. It seems that the people who were in line before went to the next door. Len Ning turned around. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard a knock at the door. President. President, I'm here to see Han-san. Len Ning looked at Han-san. What's going on? Han-san frowned and asked outside. Don't you want to see what's going on now? Who is here? How dare you disturb me? The lady is right, this mercenary union really needs to be rectified. President, he's a person with healing powers. The people outside were very excited and couldn't speak smoothly. Han-san was startled. Just as he was about to open his mouth to let people in, he suddenly remembered that Len Ning was still there. Wait, he said to the people outside the door. He should be talking about the little treasure of our Manman team. Len Ning looked at Han-san. Except for Xiaobao, all the members of their Manman team have tested their abilities. She is the second to last, and behind her is Xiaobao. Now Xiaobao should have just finished the ability test next door. Is he from the young lady? Han-san looked a little surprised. Xiaobao's healing power is currently at the second level, intermediate level. He is only 7 years old and has great potential, Len Ning continued. Han-san's face was startled, and then there was a burst of joy on his face. A 7-year-old second-level intermediate healer, what a genius, he then exclaimed. Len Ning nodded. Han-san wanted to persuade Len Ning to let Xiaobao join the military department. But looking at Len Ning's expressionless face, he didn't dare to say anything to persuade him. I know that the military department is in urgent need of people with healing powers. I will discuss Xiaobao's arrangements with Brother Lan alone. Currently, the military department is still in charge of Blue Snake, so just tell him about this matter. Yes, Han-san said immediately. It's best for the young lady to tell Hall Master Lan. Otherwise, if he failed to recruit the healing power user, this matter would probably be a troublesome matter in front of Hall Master Lan. The key is that he has already disgraced Hall Master Lan because of this stupid woman. If he fails in his duties in front of him again, he may be out of luck. After all, no matter how little Zhao Qian is, he is still Hall Master Ian's person. As the saying goes, beating a dog also depends on the owner. Well, I really can't blame him for this. Who told this stupid woman to offend anyone, but she offended the young lady? Who among the Lei family's elders doesn't know how much Lei Xiao dotes on his sister? You will not live if you do your own evil. And now he is just taking the opportunity to step on their feet so that he can escape. It's just helpless. I'm leaving, this matter. Len Ning said and looked at the woman still holding Han-san's legs on the ground. You figure it out. Then the corners of his mouth raised. It's really asking for death. She was talking to Han-san just now. If this woman was smarter, she would know to avoid it. But she wanted to sit quietly on the ground and listen to their conversation. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 208. Forget it, I listened to everything. In this way, Han-san may have originally wanted to save her life, but now he was afraid that he could no longer do so. Because she knows too much information. After saying that, Len Ning left. What does the life and death of others have to do with her? And he is someone who has offended himself. Miss, go slowly. Han-san stood up and bowed to say goodbye to Len Ning. When Len Ning left the door, the smile on his face faded. President, please help me. Help me and Uncle. The woman quickly begged Han-san. Lie again. She knew that Han-san was silent just now because Len Ning was there. After that, she stopped talking and waited for Len Ning to leave. Now that she was finally gone, her time had come. Han-san finally looked at the woman. But his expression gradually turned cruel. If you commit suicide now, your uncle may still be able to save you, he then said in a deep voice. The woman was startled. President, don't do this. Please don't do this. You and my uncle are good friends. He immediately hugged Han-san's legs and begged. Han-san squatted down. A big hand touched the woman's cheek. A flash of disgust flashed in the woman's heart, but there was a smile on her face, and she even tried hard to win Han San's favor. Han San raised a smile at the corner of his mouth, and then took his hand away from the woman's face. President, President. Let me follow you. I don't need a title, as long as you can let me live. When the woman saw this, she panicked. She had to live, not die. Cannot. Suddenly, Han Shan's eyes turned cold, and a long knife appeared in his hand. In a moment, red blood splashed out. There was no more noisy sound of women in the room. Picking up the knife, Han San took out a white handkerchief from his space ring. Wipe clean gently. Then he threw the soiled veil onto the woman's body. Then he put the knife back into the space ring. Without even looking at the people on the ground, Han San walked toward the door. After leaving the door, the person who came to report him just now was still there. Go and clean up inside. This office will be yours from now on, Han San said after glancing at the man. The man was stunned for a moment, then his face was filled with ecstasy. Yes, President. Thank you, President. Then he quickly saluted Han San. Han San raised his lips and left. I saw him smiling gently, and instantly he became the president of the mercenary union with an affable face and a gentle temper. On the other side, the Manman team has obtained their respective mercenary certificates and mercenary team badges. Now he is being taken to the market by Li Qiang. The market at the Thunder Base is very lively, a bit like the market scenes in some small towns before the end of the world. Commonly seen in the market are some custom-made stalls selling miscellaneous goods. Some of the enclosed prefabricated houses are shops, and the items inside are more carefully classified and have a wider variety of goods. Even though it was almost noon, the market was very lively. I didn't expect that the Thunder Base also printed money. Zhang Peng was a little surprised to see someone using a special kind of banknote. Although crystal cores are the most ideal currency, they are still scarce items at the moment. It is more convenient to use banknotes, Li Qiang said, especially for making change. After all, the purchasing power of crystal cores is too great, and one first-order crystal core can buy a large amount of supplies. Zhang Peng nodded. How are these banknotes and crystal cores exchanged? He then asked. 300 can be exchanged for a first-order crystal core. The military department has a special exchange point. People who need crystal cores can also exchange them with their own money, Li Qiang said. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Now. Chapter 209. A flash of shock flashed in Zhang Peng's eyes. I sighed again in my heart. This Thunder Base is really powerful. It was originally just a small place in City A, but now it has become a small country with a complete system. Len Ning had memories of his previous life, and he already knew about 70% of this information. Her suggestions, however, exacerbated the Thunder Base's progress. The current Thunder Base is indeed more prosperous and the system is more complete than in the early days of the previous apocalypse. After walking down the street, Len Ning found that there were very few vendors selling food on the street, and even if there were some, the prices were very expensive. It seems that food is still the most scarce material in the early days of the end of the world. There's a restaurant ahead, let's go have a meal. Zhou Tao suddenly saw a place to eat at the corner of the street in front of him, and immediately said to everyone excitedly. This Thunder Base looks small, but it has all kinds of businesses. It can be considered as a sparrow is small but has all the internal organs. They had already come out of Lei's house and had not visited the street yet. It would be too troublesome to go back to eat. It's better to eat on the street, which is more convenient. Let's go, Yuan Xing followed. Since the end of the world, he has never dared to think about going out to a restaurant. Going out to a restaurant is not just for good food, but also for feelings, a feeling. Len Ning shook his head and followed the crowd. These boys are so innocent. After a while, Zhou Tao led everyone to the restaurant. Boss, eat. After entering, Zhou Tao immediately shouted to the restaurant owner. "Here we come," the landlady came over enthusiastically. "What do you guys want to eat?" "We have bean curd rice and stir-fried vegetables." Everyone was stunned. Then he looked at the 2 tables of guests dining in the store. I found that the 2 dining tables were all filled with vegetables or bean curd and rice. The vegetables looked very plain, with almost no oil or water at all. "Are there any meat dishes?" Zhou Tao asked the proprietress. Since awakening his superpower, he has become very obsessed with meat, and he also loves starchy and high-calorie foods. "Of course, my favorite is meat." The smile on the landlady's face slowly faded, and she looked at Zhou Tao with a strange look. "Sorry, they just came to the base. They don't understand the situation." Li Qiang quickly stood up and said. Zhou Tao was about to say a few words, but was stopped by Li Qiang. "Food is tight in the base, so don't think about meat. This store has bean curd rice, which is pretty good," Li Qiang continued. Even though he was in the security team, he ate some vegetables every day, and even rice was supplied in controlled quantities, which caused him to feel weak occasionally. "What?" The Manman team looked at Li Qiang in surprise. "Is bean curd rice considered good? I seem to have made a mistake. Otherwise, let's go back and eat." Zhou Tao scratched his head angrily. Where is his grandma's restaurant? The food was almost the same as what they had at the resort. The rest of the Manman team also looked embarrassed, and they were unwilling to give in here. "The bean curd rice is pretty good," Li Qiang said to everyone, not understanding everyone's emotions at all. "Not everyone can find this kind of bean curd rice, and there is also rice." Someone from their security team came to the street and wanted to open a small stove before, but they only had rice and steamed buns, and the rest was all vegetables. Just like that, they still ate deliciously and went back to show off to them. Zhou Tao stepped forward and patted Li Qiang on the shoulder. "Qiangzi, you've come to the right place, Team Manman." "Congratulations," then he said to Li Qiang seriously. "I think it was because of a meal that he and Yuan Xing joined the boss." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Now. Chapter 210. Li Qiang was confused. Then he scratched his head and smiled. Indeed, it was indeed his honor to be on a team with so many strong men. But aren't they talking about food? Looking at the hot tofu pudding in the owner's pot and the steamed white rice on the side, he was really hungry. "Let's make do, let's eat here. After dinner, we have to go to many places," Len Ning suddenly said. It had been a long time since they came out. Before leaving, she even told her family that she wouldn't go back for lunch. Going back now will inevitably make Zheng Gang and the others busy again and waste a lot of time. The expressions on the faces of the Manman team suddenly turned pale. It's really hard for them to work up their appetite with just these vegetable and bean curd rice without oil. "We bring our own ingredients, can you help process them?" Len Ning sighed and asked the boss's wife after seeing the team members' dissatisfaction. The landlady was stunned. "Okay then," he said with a smile. "There is no business in the store today, so keeping customers can at least make more money. It depends on how many dishes you have. We charge some processing fees," the lady boss continued. "Okay," Len Ning responded. Then he walked to an empty table and started to take supplies out of his space ring. Tomatoes, green beans, crock beans, potatoes, corn. Seeing the wide variety of vegetables, the proprietress quickly joined in. Even the boss, who was busy at the stove, stopped what he was doing, turned off the fire, and walked over. The few customers in the store also looked over. What kind of background does this little girl have that she has so many vegetables? Some of them are almost impossible to buy on the market. Also, What she is wearing on her hand should be the rumored space ring. That thing is very precious. Currently, there are only a handful of people in the Thunder base who have this treasure. Then, Len Ning actually took out eggs, sausages, bacon and fresh beef. This time, the landlady, the boss, and the customers in the store were completely shocked. The customers in the store, who could still sit still, stood up and gathered around. Suddenly, the table filled with supplies was surrounded by darkness. Oh my God, it's meat. She actually has meat supplies. Little girl, can you sell me some of these things? A man pointed at the supplies on the table and asked Len Ning. Eggs, little girl, can you sell me a few of these eggs? Before Len Ning could answer, another man followed. They are mercenaries who have just returned from completing a mission outside. I happen to have a crystal core in my hand, so I came to a restaurant for a good meal. I originally thought that eating bean curd rice was already a pleasure, but now that I see so many good things, I can't help but be tempted. This is meat, meat that makes people drool just by looking at it. Little girl dash immediately afterwards, another person spoke. What are you doing? Get out of the way, Zhou Tao suddenly spoke, squeezing in to protect Len Ning and keeping everyone away from her. We're not selling anything. We're bringing it for ourselves. Just do whatever you're supposed to do, Zhou Tao said to the crowd with an unfriendly look. Who are you? It's none of your business that we're discussing business with a little girl. A man closest to Zhou Tao was pushed by Zhou Tao, and he was a little angry at the moment. Boss is our captain, why is it none of my business? See, you are also superpowers. If you want supplies, go get them from outside. Don't worry about other people's supplies here, Zhou Tao immediately replied. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 211. Who cares? Don't you know about the business? The man was scolded and immediately became angry. If we don't want to sell, it's not a deal. Stay away, Zhou Tao continued. You kid, are you looking for a beating? The man raised his fist. Seeing that the scene was about to become chaotic, the Manman team immediately stood together with Zhou Tao. They all looked at each other with hostility. There were only 4 people on the other side. Seeing that Manman's team was all young people, he naturally didn't take them seriously. But after all, the Manman team has a large number of people, and there is also a member of the security team, so they don't dare to take action easily. So one of the leaders pulled the man who had just argued with Zhou Tao. Little girl, we are willing to provide crystal cores to buy your supplies, please consider it. Then he said to Len Ning with a smile. The young boy just said that this little girl is their captain, which should be true. He didn't believe that these little kids had any strength, but this little girl should have a decent background. They just wanted to buy some supplies, and there was no need to get into trouble with these children over such a trivial matter. After all, the Thunder base has strict laws, and fighting is no small matter. I won't consider it. I'm not short of crystal nuclei, Len Ning said lightly. You, the man who was pulled by his boss just now, wanted to threaten Len Ning. But he was pulled back by his boss again. My name is Sun Chi, and I am the captain of the Lanja mercenary team. I just want to show off my face. There may be opportunities for cooperation in the future. The boss was not angry, but stretched out his hand to Len Ning. Len Ning was stunned. Miss, the Wolf Fang mercenary team is currently the strongest mercenary team in the Thunder base. Captain Sun Chi's firepower has reached the peak of the 2nd level. Some people even speculate that it has reached the 3rd level. Li Qiang looked serious and stepped forward. Chong, Len Ning whispered. Moreover, the other 3 members of the Lanja team are all 2nd level intermediate masters, Li Qiang said, and looked at everyone in the Lanja team. I really didn't expect to run into this mercenary team here today. Having taken the Manman squad to the mercenary union, Li Qiang naturally knew that the strength of the Manman squad was even greater than that of the Wolf Fang squad. But now Sun Chi has no intention of grabbing supplies, and there is no need for them to fight each other. On the contrary, if we can establish a relationship with such a strong team, it will be a good thing in the long run. Len Ning nodded. Wolf Fang Mercenary Team. Of course she had heard of this title. Captain Sun Chi was one of the top 10 masters of the Thunder Base in his previous life. He was so powerful that he was later personally recruited into the military by Lei Ting. It became his biggest killer weapon after the four-color group. Len Ning reached out and took hold of Sun Chi's. The tense situation suddenly relaxed. Zhou Tao was a little angry, but Yuan Xing held him back and did not dare to say anything. The rest of the Lanja mercenary team looked a little proud when they saw Len Ning shaking hands with their boss. Humph, who dares to deny face to their Wolf Fang mercenary team? Several superpower users at another table saw this, but they did not dare to step forward. Now that the little girl has reached a reconciliation with Sun Chi must be on the little girl's side. If they want to buy other people's supplies, they may not be able to do so. With Sun Chi here, where would they have a chance? But looking at so many good supplies, they were reluctant to leave. I had to stand there and wait. By the way, let's take a look at how Sun Chi and Len Ning deal with each other. Thinking, what if I still have a chance? Sun Chi's eyes were startled when he heard Len Ning take the initiative to announce his name. He was about to say it, but was stopped by Len Ning's look.